Mehdi, let me tell you what it is. You know, I
Don't
have
criticize him.
a local doctor I want you to go see. He specializes in TDS. And I think you would work very well with him. Over a 6-month period, he'll be able to get rid of your TDS.
I have a guy who's a psychologist, and he deals with cult members.
Yep.
And I think he'll do well with you guys who can't get out of the Trump cult.
Patrick Bet David has built an entire brand around being the guy who asks the tough questions. He's known for putting guests under pressure, controlling the pace of the conversation, and forcing people to defend their positions. Whether you agree with him or not, very few people walk onto the PBD podcast and manage to flip the script. But this debate was different, because from the very beginning something felt off. Instead of watching a guest struggle to answer Patrick's questions, viewers witnessed something much rarer. Mehdi Hasan wasn't just responding, he was pushing back. He was challenging the assumptions behind the questions themselves. And more importantly, he was forcing the conversation back to points that many politicians, commentators, and media personalities would rather move past. Before we dive into the full story, comment where you're watching from. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Now pay very close attention to what happens throughout this exchange. The debate starts as a discussion about foreign policy, Trump, Iran, Israel, and American influence in the Middle East. But as the conversation progresses, something interesting begins to happen. Every time Mehdi presses a difficult question or returns to a point that demands a direct answer, the discussion starts drifting somewhere else. Suddenly, the focus isn't the original issue anymore. Instead, we're talking about Trump derangement syndrome. Then we're talking about doctors. Later, we're talking about Substack subscribers and business growth. The conversation keeps moving, but the question at the center of the debate never really disappears. And that's where things get fascinating. Because when someone is completely comfortable with the argument they're making, they usually stay on the argument. They don't need to constantly change the subject or reach for unrelated comparisons. But when a discussion starts bouncing from one analogy to another, viewers naturally begin asking themselves a simple question. Why are we no longer talking about the original point? That's the tension that slowly builds throughout this entire debate. To be fair, Patrick Bet David is one of the most confident and experienced podcast hosts in political media. He didn't become successful by accident. He's sharp, quick on his feet, and rarely gets caught off guard. But Mehdi Hasan came into this conversation prepared for a completely different kind of battle. Rather than getting trapped inside Patrick's framing, he repeatedly challenged it. Rather than accepting the premises being handed to him, he questioned them. And as you'll see, that creates several moments where the momentum of the debate suddenly shifts. The conversation has become less about who can talk the loudest than about who can stay focused when the pressure starts rising. And once that starts happening, the entire dynamic of the interview begins to change. Let's take a closer look at what unfolds.
Every single time everything is America's fault, what responsibility do they take? Do they take any responsibility that they're not making the right decision for the people?
Just to be clear, people can rewind. I know Rob does screenshots, but people watching on YouTube can rewind. Never did I say it's all America's fault. I've never said that. I'm very, have you read, you said you've read my stuff. You've seen my stuff.
I've seen your stuff.
I'm very critical of Muslim majority countries. I am very critical of the Iranian government. I'm very critical of the Saudi government. I'm very critical of the Emirati government.
What do you think they can do?
I do a show for Al Jazeera and I grilled the Qatari foreign minister on that show about the lack of democracy.
Dude, I've seen your stuff.
I'm critical of Arab governments, Muslim government, Pakistan.
Do you think the Middle East is a safer place with IRGC in charge of running America or somebody like a Pezeshkian? More the moderates.
Of course, I'm more of a moderate. I would like to see. And again, who undermined the moderates in Iran? Sorry, it's going to be the answer you don't like. The United States of America.
No, I disagree.
The United States of America.
No, I disagree. I don't think that's the case. Israel.
Oh, well.
No, I don't put
our proxy then.
No, but listen to you were not expecting my answer.
No, because I don't accept this fake split between U.S. and Israel.
But this is not it. But let me tell you what's going on. I do, because what I see going on right now is I see Israel, in a way, I actually like what's taking place. Let me explain to you why I like what's taking place. A part of what's going on right now is the world is able to see Bibi's motive versus Trump's motive. Like, you remember that one time when the Trump and Bibi are on stage speaking, and he's saying, yeah, we're thinking about taking over Gaza, and we're going to build a hotel here. And then you see Bibi goes like, wait, what? You never told me that. He kind of got, I don't know if you remember that session or not.
It was
Okay.
the West Bank equivalent.
So a part of it for me, I like that this is happening because I prefer this to be in the public's eye. I prefer for Trump to show, hey, listen, if I want to go become a prime minister of Israel, I would do it. You're there just because of me. I like him saying that publicly.
All right.
I like that is taking place. But to me, who wants IRGC to be gone?
So a couple of things. On the Trump point, I agree it's better these things happen in public, and there is a weird upside to Trump having such a big mouth and saying crazy shit all the time. There is a pro to that. I get that. But let's not forget, Patrick, you saw the New York Times big piece where we discovered from Maggie Haberman and Jonathan Swan that Benjamin Netanyahu went to the Situation Room and made the case to Trump with Mossad joining via Zoom or wherever it was, and he persuaded Trump that this will be a walk in the park, cakewalk, all of that shit. That happened in private.
What's your percentage that happened?
That happened in private.
What's your percentage
high,
that
high
happened?
percentage.
Give me a number, 80%?
80%.
I'm 50-50 that happened.
Okay. You think Trump did it on his own without Netanyahu?
No. I said I'm 50-50, meaning I believe there's a 50% chance because...
but you don't deny that behind the scenes, the Israelis are putting pressure on the U.S.
Of course I know.
Okay. So then to come back to your
but
broader
I don't
point,
think he's Bush. I don't think he's Obama. I don't think he's Biden. I don't think he's those guys.
In many ways, he's worse.
No. I don't think
he doesn't have any independent views.
The one thing I know with you, Mehdi, is the fact that no matter what he does, he's not going to get victory from you. We have to put those two.
Again, you can go back on YouTube, rewind an hour. I said if he restrains Netanyahu in Gaza and Lebanon.
You said
if.
But
he won't. I know he won't.
No, I understand. But have you ever given him any credit for anything he's done?
In the first term, I wrote a piece for The Intercept. I got a lot of shit for it because I said credit where credit's due. He's going to withdraw from Afghanistan. Remember, he laid out that timeline that Biden then got attacked for following. It was a Trump timeline to pull out of Afghanistan.
He did it. The way
Trump
he did
would have done it better. Come on. It was always going to be a disaster. No matter how you pull out of Afghanistan.
There was many military personnel said there was better ways to leave.
No, I don't agree on that. But
many military.
Can I come back to your wider point?
Tell me.
Oh my God, he's showing me. I need to take a shower now. Bravo, Donald Trump is the headline. Rob's too fast. All right, so let me come back to the wider point. Forget Trump.
I always knew. I introduced him properly at the beginning. Big MAGA supporter.
That's 2020. 6 years ago. We all grow, evolve, learn from our mistakes. So the broader point about America and Israel, Iran, to go back to your IRGC point, forget Trump for a moment. Let's just take U.S. foreign policy as a whole. When you say it's Israel, I don't accept that. I think this new thing on the right where you say, Tucker Carlson, Joe Kent, all this line, which is like, America's good, it's bad Israel, making good America. I'm not saying you did, but I'm saying others, it's becoming a very consensus view, which is America's really good, and then evil Israel comes on and makes good America do bad things.
No.
We need to take agency and responsibility. We are the superpower. And when Israel's murdering Iranian nuclear scientists or murdering Iranian diplomats who might do a deal with them, we have to take ownership for that. They don't do that without an American green light. They didn't kill Khamenei without an American green light.
And this is where the entire debate reaches its breaking point. After nearly 90 minutes of arguments, interruptions, foreign policy disputes, and philosophical disagreements, the conversation arrives at a simple question. If a powerful country expands into weaker countries because it can, what exactly separates that from imperialism? It's a direct question. It's not complicated. And it's the kind of question that forces people to reveal the principles they're actually operating under. What happens next is the reason so many viewers walked away talking about this exchange. Because instead of confronting the question head-on, Patrick takes the conversation somewhere completely different. Suddenly, we're not talking about foreign policy anymore. We're not talking about military intervention. We're not talking about international law. We're not even talking about governments. We're talking about YouTube audiences. We're talking about Substack subscribers. We're talking about hiring employees away from competitors. And that's the moment where you can almost feel the atmosphere in the room change. Mehdi pauses. He looks at Patrick, and then he delivers the line that instantly became one of the most memorable moments of the entire debate. He says he waited an hour and 20 minutes to hear the dumbest argument of the discussion. Now, whether you agree with that assessment or not, it's easy to understand why the moment landed so hard. Because viewers weren't expecting the conversation to go there. The debate had started with war, foreign intervention, and geopolitical power. Yet somehow it had ended with an analogy comparing business growth to territorial expansion. And that's where the exchange becomes fascinating. Patrick Bet David is not someone who struggles to think on his feet. Quite the opposite. He's built an entire career on being quick, persuasive, and capable of defending his position under pressure. Which is precisely why this moment stood out. When experienced debaters stop defending the core argument and start reaching for increasingly distant comparisons, Audiences naturally start asking questions. Why avoid the original point? Why move the discussion somewhere else? Why not simply answer the challenge directly? Those questions hung over the rest of the conversation. As the debate continued, the disagreement became much bigger than Trump, Iran, Israel, or any individual policy. It became a clash between two completely different ways of viewing power. Patrick's argument, at its core, seemed to be that power has always shaped history. Nations expand, empires rise. Strong countries pursue their interests. That's simply how the world has operated for centuries. Mehdi's response was fundamentally different. His position was that history alone doesn't justify behavior. Just because something happened in the past doesn't automatically make it acceptable today. After all, many things happen throughout history that modern societies now reject. And that's why he kept returning to the same point over and over again. If expansion by one country is acceptable because it's powerful, then on what basis do you condemn expansion by another country? If rules only apply to your opponents, are they really rules at all? Notice that throughout the debate, no matter how many detours the conversation took, Mehdi kept circling back to that central question, again and again. Foreign intervention, military action, national sovereignty, international law. The same principle kept resurfacing, and perhaps that's what made this exchange so compelling. Not because one side delivered a perfect argument, not because one side completely dominated the other, but because one question remained hanging in the air long after the debate moved on, a question that never seemed to receive a fully satisfying answer. And that's often how the most memorable political debates work. The moment people continue discussing afterward usually isn't the loudest argument. It's the unanswered question. Patrick Bet David remains one of the most confident and formidable interviewers in political media. Nobody can take that away from him. But in this particular exchange, Mehdi Hasan succeeded in doing something very few guests managed to accomplish. He forced the conversation back to first principles. And once that happened, the debate stopped being about personalities and started being about consistency. That's what made this discussion worth watching. Now I want to hear from you. Who do you think made the stronger case? Did Patrick successfully defend his position, or did Mehdi expose a contradiction that never got resolved? Let me know in the comments below. And if you've only watched this debate once, go back and watch it again. You may be surprised by how many details, reactions, and turning points become visible the second time around.